I want to talk about the White Lotus show first.
Ooh, it went super viral.
It went
recently.
super viral because our clips went super viral last week.
Similar topic
We talked about the fetishization of Asian men. We also talked about people who don't date within their race.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because right after those clips went viral, I saw the White Lotus season 3 clip go viral.
Set in Thailand
as it pertains to, I forgot which Blackpink character.
Lisa. Lisa's
was it Lisa?
In the show. Yeah.
Lisa was in the show.
Yeah.
And there was a Sam Rockwell monologue about him having an Asian fetish and going to Thailand to, let's say, make his dreams come true. And at first it was quite difficult to listen to.
Yeah.
To be perfectly honest, because it was a bit triggering to me because it really, when we put out those clips, there were people who said in the comments, there's a difference between fetishization and preference.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right? Which I completely agree with. And I understand that argument. But this was one of those moments where it was complete fetishization and objectification. And in that clip, he talked about having sex with over 1,000
Asian girls.
And that's what he dreamed of. And that's what it kind of, I have a lot of thoughts about this. I'll let you go first.
Yeah.
What did you feel after just seeing that clip?
Yeah, so we just rewatched the White Lotus season 3 clip.
Yeah.
What stuck out to me about this clip is that he has no idea what an Asian woman is.
Yeah.
He only knows his fantasy of them.
Yeah.
Right? So Sam Rockwell's character, he's saying, I realized I wanted to be an Asian girl. No, you don't. You have no clue. These women have no humanity to him.
Yeah.
All they exist as is his sexual imagination and projection of who they are. Yeah. And that's what fetishization is, right? Yeah. Fetishization is imagining something about someone.
Yeah.
And then wanting them, not because of who they are, but because of what fantasy of yours they fulfill.
Yeah.
And that's what really sticks out to me about a lot of people. Like, to me, what separates preference or interest from fetishization is that one is you know some people, right? You know something about who they might be, where they come from, what they've gone through. But fetishization, you don't actually know anything about them. You just know what you project onto them.
Right.
They're this or they're that. And that's what fascinated me in this White Lotus clip is when Sam Rockwell's character said, I realized I wanted to be an Asian girl.
Yeah.
He has no idea what it means to be an Asian woman. It was all in his fantasy.
Yeah.
What he wanted to be, what he wanted to use people for. Yeah. It was all his own perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So when I saw it, like, I had a lot of thoughts run through my head, but one of them was because I spent a lot of time in Thailand because of my coconut water business, Real Cocoa. I've just been going there on and off for the past, let's say 10, 20 years. Right? And I know a lot of white people there.
Yeah.
Right. And I can't just say it's all one type of white guy who goes
to
Thailand, right? Now, of course, there are the passport bros, right? Who maybe are sick of the Western concept of the masculine and feminine, or let's say the lack thereof in the Western world.
Yeah.
They feel like the feminine in Asia, but not just Asia, in Europe,
Africa, Latin America.
Yeah. The masculine, feminine roles there are different. And they feel like, okay, maybe going to a foreign country like Thailand or like anywhere else, actually, China, Taiwan, anywhere, could make them feel more like a masculine, because the traditional roles are quite different there, right? The cooking, the cleaning, the taking care of, or even in Muslim countries, right? Like they teach that. Yeah. So you have those clearly defined roles that some men are more comfortable in, which I totally get. Then you have, similar to what Sam Rockwell was saying, the people who just go on their sex debauchery kind of trips, right? And then you see them walking around in all the weird shady bars, with a new girl every night, and kind of similar to what you were saying, they don't know about their culture. They're just kind of objectifying it. And beyond that, maybe not just objectifying, but harks back to Vietnam and prostitution and, you know, the dominance type of, you know, that dynamic where people look down upon, or I don't even call it slavery, but something that alludes to that.
Yeah, well, yeah, because there's a long, for my nonprofit, Hate is a Virus, we actually just put out a post on our socials talking about, right? So it was just March 16th, which is the anniversary of the Atlanta spa shootings. Yeah. And this dude walked in, shot, killed 8 people, 6 of whom were Asian American women working at massage parlors. Yeah. And he said, oh, it's because they were a temptation and I had to get rid of this temptation and blah, blah, blah. And that mentality around Asian women has been shaped by American history, by American policy, because you realize, right, in 1874, the Page Act outlawed Chinese women from coming to America. And it did it because it said they would be an immoral influence. And it was actually literally saying Chinese women were all sex workers. Right. Or any Chinese woman that would come to America would be a prostitute. Yeah. And then the next time that Americans encountered a lot of Asian women was in America's wars, was in World War II, was in the Korean War, was in the Vietnam War, was in the Filipino-American War. Yeah. And what happened was you had a ton of young American men going overseas, and the sex industry flourished around American military camps. Yeah. And so all of these guys came back from war, and they had this image of Asian women as catering to them sexually, as being available and easily available. And this isn't Asian culture. This is a version of Asian culture that evolved because if you're in a war-torn country and there's these people with money and weapons coming from overseas, of course you're going to cater to them. Yeah. And this culminated in 1945's War Brides Act, where that was actually one of the first pieces of legislation after Chinese exclusion to let Asian people, and very specifically Asian women, into the country. Yeah. And so one of the major movements in the 20th century of Asians coming to America was Asian women that American men, American soldiers went over, had sex with, got into relations with, and brought them back to America with them. So America's imagination of Asian women has been shaped so much by violence and by a need to cater to America's military.
Well, it's messed up, right? Because it was even portrayed in movies like "Me So Horny,"
Full Metal Jacket.
Full Metal Jacket. When I saw that for the first time, I was like, "What? How can this be actually in a movie right now?" Because that kind of just perpetuates the stereotype that you were just discussing. And, you know, it's this entire Asian fetish thing is such a nuanced discussion because, yes, you have the male dominance part of it, the white dominance, like you said let's say the GIs back in the day. And then you also have, you know, the history of colonialism in Asia. By the British,
Opium Wars,
Hong Kong, Hong Kong, Malaysia, all these places. So it dates back to that as well. But, you know, I can't just say that it's just, all right, white men fetishize, Asian women, because there's also, going back to what I was saying about the passport bros, you know, the more traditional roles of the man and female, I can't discount that. You know, like I think sometimes we do also have to look introspectively at certain things where it could be a combination of everything. Yeah. Right? It's not just one issue, right? They may sexualize them, but then also realize that, they're more feminine not in the physical form, but maybe they're in the relationship.
I think the thing that's interesting about Asia, right? Like obviously we've both lived in Asia. We've both lived all around and traveled all around Asia. Yeah. And we both know like Asia's very modern in a lot of ways, but in other ways, Asia's held onto traditional culture. Yeah. And this is something that's interesting about America. We're a very young country. Yeah. And America's really bad at holding on to traditions.
And
I don't mean, like Plymouth Rock and say Christmas, not happy holidays. Like, I mean like traditions that actually build communities. Traditions of, in China, right? There's this idea of guanxi, which means relationship. And you're expected to understand the relationships you have and whether you've been a drain on them or whether you've been providing for them and what, in the West, people sometimes look at it as like, oh, what do you owe people?
Right.
But in
Gold
China,
digging or something like that.
Exactly. But in China, it's so much more complicated.
Yeah.
And I think that some of that desire, some of what we're seeing for these guys who are like, dude, I'm fed up. A lot of dudes, God bless them all, they take their frustrations with society and they put it on women. Right? They say, oh, I'm not being respected enough.
Right.
And it's women's fault.
Right.
And it's like, dude, it's just part of society. America doesn't respect workers. America doesn't respect the middle class. America doesn't respect the disabled.
Right.
And they go and they externalize it and they say, man, by marrying or getting a relationship with or having sex with these women, I'm gonna fill what's lacking in me. And it's like, dude, it's so much bigger than the person you're with or the person you're having sex with. It's about this whole culture that you were born and bred in. And I really think that a lot of what people are looking for when they have these fetishes or when they have these whatever, there's something deeply broken in the culture and community they're in. And instead of trying to unpack that and solve it and fix it, they look elsewhere to save them from it.
There's a lot of stories that I know of guys, like you said, they felt either disrespected here or, similar to what we were discussing in the clips last week about feeling invisible here.
Yeah.
Right? As Asian men, but white men being felt invisible from their own spouses, whether that be whatever race.
Yeah.
And then when they go to Thailand, especially if they're older men, a lot of, 67-year-olds, they just feel like America's forgotten them.
Yeah.
And when they go to Thailand, they feel all of a sudden young again. They feel looked at. They feel they get the attention. They get the respect. They get the sexuality back into them.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of them, this is a lot, go there to objectify and then fall in love. They actually fall in love. So they go and sleep with whatever, how many you can think of prostitutes, and then they find one and they fall in love with her. But they don't understand that the woman that they're falling in love with is not, I don't want to say doesn't love them back, but doesn't use the same Western idea of love
and
back to him. And then they get played or, and they get heartbroken and they get even more jaded.
Generalizing it to the whole culture.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right.
All women here.
Yeah, correct. All women here just want my money. Or they're okay with it. They're like, okay, I get it. It's a fair trade. They treat me good.
Yeah.
They may not write love letters to me.
Yeah.
Or, like a lot of them fall in love and at times they get heartbroken because the Thai women don't exhibit the same type of Western love back to them.
Yeah.
And then they become jaded. And then they expect everyone to be the same way.
Yeah.
So I see a lot of that. And I see a lot of my foreigner friends there get really pissed off when movies like this come out, who have married Thai people. They speak Thai. They are respectful of the culture.
Yeah.
They dated every type of woman, every race before, and they just happened to fall in love with one.
Because they know that this is now going to slot them into that niche.
Correct.
And there's absolutely this stereotype of the Westerner who goes to Thailand and they're there to do bad. They're there to do stuff they're not allowed or couldn't do at home.
Yeah. So you have both. Yeah, it's kind of just every side gets pitted in a certain stereotype. I want to be careful about putting everyone in one box.
Definitely.
But I think that does happen in movies a lot, right? Which is another thing another thought that I had after watching this clip was that, all right, Asians in Hollywood, here we go again.
And that's crazy to me too, because Lisa is one of the most popular, she might be one of the 10 most recognizable female entertainers, women entertainers in the world.
Yeah.
And here they have her,
dancing and
being this like like side character.
Yeah.
Which, obviously it's her, first
Debut,
Hollywood role. Yeah,
sure.
that's cool. But I just think it's so interesting that even this woman who is a massive superstar looked up to, she's an ambassador for luxury brands.
Yeah.
In America, the only role or the first role that's available to her is being slotted in the same stereotype as every other Asian woman has been in Hollywood for, like you're saying. It goes even further back than a Full Metal Jacket. We're talking Madame Butterfly. We're talking Miss Saigon.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's ironic. She's Thai.
She is Thai.
And like the first role of hers is being some like Thai sexy vixen in Hollywood.
Yeah.
To me, there's just doesn't sit right with me. There's something wrong with it. To me, doesn't sit right with me. It's kind of weird that's, like I said, one of our biggest stars.
Yeah.
And her first role being some like
Thai
Thai
would
vixen.
be like if Jamie Foxx went to China and his first role was as like a slave laborer brought over by the British, and he's just doing pretty stereotypical things. I think a lot of Black Americans would have a problem with that.
Yeah, of course.
And then to see this woman who's massively successful and adored the world over, not just in Asia.
Yeah.
It's God bless her and her team. Hope they're making the right moves for her. But
absolutely. I support her all the way.
Yeah. It's telling. It's telling about the culture.
That's really what it is.